Hello, everyone. Phil Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. Today is the 20th of November, 2022. And our topic today is the excising of Southern heroes from American culture. Uh, it's not really just limited to Civil War heroes. It's Southern personalities generally are not permitted to be heroes in any of the stories that we're telling about Americans today. So anyway, click on the subscribe button here in the lower right to subscribe to future episodes, and also the notification bell to be notified when they are released. And if you fail to click on that notification bell, then the floor is going to drop out from under you and you're going to drop down into Hades, where you'll be uh, gnashing your teeth and tearing your clothes for eternity. Okay, so here's what prompted this video. I was watching a podcast in which Nelson DeMille was being interviewed. Now, Nelson DeMille was a very popular thriller author. Some of his his most popular novels would include Plum Island, Lion's Game, and Charm School. Now, he's written a series of 9 such novels in which the principal character is a guy named John Corey, who is a former New York police detective. And so he's got an attitude. He's got that New York attitude. And so he can kind of be crude. Woke people would consider him misogynistic and racist and all this other sort of stuff. So he recently published his 9th book concerning John Corey, who's getting up in age now. And I was at the bookstore before I watched this podcast, and I was looking at possibly buying the book, and I read the jacket cover, and the story involves some murders of prostitutes, and they didn't use the word prostitute; they used the word sex worker. Just let me repeat that for clarity. They did not use the word prostitute. They used the word sex worker. So I just put the book back. I was at Barnes & Noble. I just put the book back on the shelf and left the store. I was so disgusted with that. And it turns out when I watched the podcast, he also was disgusted with it. He couldn't believe how the woke editors had taken control of such major publishers. He said, I think the term sex worker is more insulting than the term prostitute. It sounds nastier. But anyway, even a guy like that, who has published 9 novels that have been stunning successes commercially, could not fend off the woke editors from ages, probably ages 23 to 29, somewhere in there. Most of them women. 80%, I think, of the book publishing people in the book publishing business are women. So, and I assume that 99% of them are feminists, in which straight white males are the devil. So, just to give you an idea of the kind of attitude that Corey has, I remember in one of the novels he tells a joke about lawyers. Now, it's going to be insulting to lawyers. I hope that you won't be offended with this, but this was really kind of to show the attitude that John Corey, the ex-New York police detective, had. So he tells the joke. The guy goes into a bar and he's disgusted. He announces, "All lawyers are assholes." And the guy at the end of the bar says, "I resent that." And the bartender, of course, wants to keep him cool. He says, "Well, sir, I'm sorry you might be offended, but are you an attorney?" He says, "No, I'm an asshole." So that's the kind of attitude that John Corey had. Well, they've made some movies out of these stories, and of course, John Corey survives as the detective. So there's no switching of well, we got to get a softer character, so let's change this from a New York detective to, I don't know, a Columbus, Ohio detective or something like that. Now, they don't have to make that switch. He is John Corey. Okay, now there's a similar situation that involves a Southern character. Stephen Hunter, who has written a number of novels about snipers, and he really is probably the breakthrough novelist on the sniper popularity. He has written a total of 9 novels that involve a character called Bob Lee Swagger, Bob the Nailer. And Stephen Hunter, the novelist, grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. He selected as a model for this Bob Lee Swagger character a sniper from Vietnam. The real guy that was the model for the Bob Lee Swagger character was Carlos Hathcock. And Carlos Hathcock grew up in the outskirts of Little Rock, Arkansas. He grew up in an area of that town where, as a young boy or even a young teenager, he went shooting, he went hunting for small game. And the reason he did it was to help put food on the dinner table for his family. That's the kind of poverty he grew up in. So when he got into the military and he had, as a youth had been shooting, he naturally fit into the sniper category. The sniper opportunity was a good one for him. Incidentally, I would point out also that during World War II, Audie Murphy, who may have actually enlisted at the age of 16 to be in World War II, he grew up in East Texas, similar type of poverty. And if he enlisted at age 16, for the few years before that, he was also an active hunter, and he also hunted small game, not for sport, but to put food on the table to help put food on the table for his family. This was common throughout the South. Nonetheless, Stephen Hunter, as I say, wrote 9 novels involving this character, Bob Lee Swagger. And then he wrote 3 novels involving Bob Lee Swagger's father, who was a police chief in a small town in Arkansas known as Mena, Arkansas. But he got involved in some interesting, fictional developments, not just in Arkansas. For example, he was involved in the helping to rid Hot Springs, Arkansas, of the gangsters. That led to him being involved in the gangsters moving into Havana, and another episode involved I think the medical testing on blacks at the Alabama place where Booker T. Washington had his school for blacks, Tuskegee. Anyway, what happened is that the first novel that he wrote concerning Bob Lee Swagger was Point of Impact. And that was made into a movie called Shooter. And Mark Wahlberg plays the Bob Lee Swagger character. But once you get it into Hollywood, you can't have a hero out of Mena, Arkansas. He has to be in Idaho. So he's moved to Idaho. And you lose a lot there. You lose a lot because in the series of novels that Stephen Hunter wrote about the Bob Lee Swagger, there's a lot of family that works into this. Actually, the first 4 novels concerning Bob Lee Swagger are excellent in terms of connecting characters from one novel to the other through family connections and through other connections with previous episodes. They would be Point of Impact, Black Light, Time to Hunt, and Dirty White Boys. You lose that when you just have this guy out in Idaho, having been a former military sniper. But the Hollywood could not have a hero be a Southerner. That's what it amounts to. So here's my point. Nelson DeMille goes ahead with John Corey. Nobody questions, okay, well, the guy has got an attitude. He's probably a misogynist. He's probably, a bit of a racist, a bit of a xenophobe, and all that sort of thing. But I mean, he's New York City. He's got that attitude that everybody can really admire, and him standing out as an individual. Well, not so much with Bob Lee Swagger. Can't do that. So I guess that's what my point is. I think that's kind of what we're seeing here with the way the culture is evolving. It's sad, but it is also it's something that is not good for America. To wall off a section of the country and say, well, we cannot have any heroes coming from that section of the country unless they're Black. Hollywood and the movies, and even I would assume now the streaming services like Netflix and Amazon. We cannot have a hero who is white, male, and heterosexual come from the South. It just won't fly. Even though, in the case of Stephen Hunter, in his exceptionally popular novels, the role model was Carlos Hathcock, who was indeed a hero in Vietnam. I think he was probably the most famous sniper in Vietnam, and he grew up in poverty, and he made his success based upon who he was and what he did for our country. But no, the current culture will not permit that. This is something that should not be permitted to continue. That's my opinion. I trust it is yours as well. And if you feel that way, I want to emphasize there is, when I listened to that podcast in which Nelson DeMille, who has written 9 novels about John Corey, tremendously successful novels, when I learned that he did not have the power to resist some of the woke editors that insisted that he, change the word prostitute to sex worker and things like that. It's just an indication of, you can imagine what it is like to publish books concerning the Confederacy. And I published a number of them. I would, I've shown you in earlier videos some of the books that I've published. If you want stories like that, this is really serious. If you want stories like what I've told about the Confederacy, about Southerners and Reconstruction, that is not going to be the kind of version that you'll get from academia, you can kiss them goodbye. I mean, if we can't sell them, if we won't buy them, then they're just not going to be available. That's what the interviewer, the guy that was interviewing Nelson DeMille said. He said, if we don't buy these books by the people that do represent a different point of view, they're just, those points of view are just not going to be available in books. So I would like to encourage you to go to Amazon.com. I've got, I think, 9 or 10 books published there with different publishers. But look at them over and see which ones you think you might be interested in, buy them. Because if the thing that you'll get is you'll get information that you're not getting from academic historians. They can help you defend Southern heritage and Confederate memory. One of the books is on critical race theory, and I can assure you that if critical race theory becomes the accepted standard understanding of our students concerning the history of the United States, there will be eventually no memorials to Confederates anywhere. Even street names will be changed everywhere if that critical race theory becomes the standard accepted explanation of American history. You can do something about that. By buying that book, that particular book is The Dreadful Frauds, Critical Race Theory and Identity Politics. I think it's $16 on Amazon. If you want an autographed copy, email me. It'll be $20. My email is phil_leigh, L-E-I-G-H, @me.com. One of the things that book will do for you, it's going to tell you exactly what critical race theory is, because it's so frustrating to me to see people get on television who oppose critical race theory and can't, they get stumped when the reporter asks, all right, well, what is critical race theory? It's a setup. But because many of the people that get on there that are opposing it really don't know specifically what it is, because they haven't read a book that really describes what it is. Well, my book does that and also explains, the obvious faults with it. So anyway, those are my points for today. What I wanted to do, just in summary, to recapitulate, is I wanted to point out that our culture has gotten to a point where it is not permitted to make a hero out of a straight white male, particularly from the South. It cannot be permitted. And this is really something that is bad for America. It's bad for our culture. And it really does not, it really portends, I fear, major problems ahead for America in the future. Okay, that's my show for today. Thanks for watching.